3 days after the strange energy pulse, Admiral Bae Hyun-soo was not sleeping well. He commanded Earth's small defense fleet, which was mostly used for stopping space rocks from hitting the planet. But now his ships were detecting things that should not exist. "Admiral, you need to see this," called Lieutenant Park from the scanning station. "We are finding structures under the ice in Antarctica." "Big structures." Bae Hyun-soo walked over to look at the screen. The image showed something like a city buried under miles of ice. The city was huge, bigger than any human city on the surface, and it was turning on. "How long has this been there?" he asked. "The ice layers suggest at least 50,000 years, sir, but the structures are sending out power signals now. They were completely dead before the pulse 3 days ago." On the other side of Earth, Dr. Yoon-ji-hai was working late in her laboratory. She studied quantum physics, which meant she looked at the smallest parts of reality. Her job was to understand how Earth's magnetic field worked. But what she found was making her question everything she knew about science. "This is impossible," she said to herself, looking at her computer screen. The numbers showed that Earth's magnetic field was not natural. It was being created by machines deep inside the planet, machines that were getting stronger every day. Her assistant, a young man named Kang Woo-sung, brought her more data. "Dr. Yoon, the magnetic field has gotten 30% stronger since the pulse. At this rate, it will be twice as strong as normal in a month." Dr. Yoon stared at the numbers. "Woo-sung, run a deep scan of the planet core. I want to know what is down there." "But Dr. Yoon, we cannot scan that deep. The equipment is not strong enough. Try anyway. I have a feeling the equipment might work better than we think now." She was right. The scanners, which should only work for a few miles underground, somehow reached all the way to the center of Earth. What they found there was not rock and metal. It was a structure, a machine the size of a continent, humming with power that had been sleeping for thousands of years. General Nam Sung-ho was in the war room reading old reports when his aide brought him something strange. It was a file marked top secret from 60 years ago, back when humans first started traveling between stars. "Sir, we found this in the old archives. It was buried so deep that our computers missed it until yesterday. But after the pulse, our systems started finding files we never knew existed." Nam Sung-ho opened the file and started reading. His face got paler with each page. The file talked about the first human ships that went to other stars. But according to this report, those ships had not been the first human ships in space. They had been the first ships to leave the solar system in 50,000 years. "This says humans had a space empire before," he said slowly. "A big one. But something made them come back to Earth and go to sleep?" "There is more, sir," said his aide. "We found similar files in every major government archive, all of them sealed until now. It is like our computers are remembering things they forgot." Meanwhile, Captain Lee Tae-ho was still at the dig site, but now he was not alone. Ships from 12 different alien species had arrived to study the ruins. Everyone wanted to understand what had caused the energy pulse. Dr. Park So-young was working with alien scientists, comparing the symbols they found to their own historical records. A tall, blue-skinned Centauri archaeologist named Veltar was showing her pictures from her people's oldest books. "These symbols," Veltar said, pointing to the wall, "they match stories from our ancient time, stories about the sleepers who protected the galaxy before our civilization began." "What do the stories say?" asked Dr. Park. "They say the sleepers were the strongest warriors the galaxy ever knew. But they were not cruel. They fought only to protect others. When the great enemy was defeated, they went to sleep on their blue world, promising to wake up if the danger ever returned." Dr. Park felt chills run down her back. The great enemy? What great enemy? Veltar's large eyes looked scared. "The stories call them the Devourers from beyond. Things that eat not just planets or stars, but existence itself. The sleepers fought them at the edge of reality and won, but the cost was so high that they chose to forget their power and live as simple beings. Until now," whispered Dr. Park. Back on Earth, something was happening in every ocean, deep under the water in places no human had ever seen. Ancient machines were waking up. The whales and dolphins were acting strange, swimming in patterns that looked almost like they were following orders. Commander Kim Da-eun was getting reports from every coastal city. "Ma'am, the tide patterns are changing. The ocean floor is rising in some places, and this sounds crazy, but our sonar is showing structures moving under the water." Kim Da-eun looked at the reports. There were dozens of them all saying the same thing. Things that had been buried under the ocean floor for thousands of years were rising to the surface. "Get me a submarine," she ordered. "I want to see this for myself." 2 hours later, Kim Da-eun was in a small submarine diving toward the bottom of the Pacific Ocean. What she saw there made her understand that everything humans thought they knew about their world was wrong. The ocean floor was covered with buildings. Not ruins, but buildings that looked like they had been built yesterday. They were made of materials that seemed to be part metal and part something alive, and they were all glowing with the same soft blue light. "Commander," said the submarine pilot, "I am reading massive energy sources all around us. Whatever these buildings are, they are using more power than entire cities." Kim Da-eun watched through the submarine window as something that looked like a road began to light up on the ocean floor. The road stretched from one building to another, then to another, creating a network of light that went as far as she could see. "Take us up," she ordered. "I need to report this to the Admiral immediately." But when they reached the surface, Kim Da-eun found that Admiral Bay already knew. Every government on Earth was getting the same reports. Ancient structures were waking up everywhere. Under the Sahara Desert, under the Amazon rainforest, under the cities of Asia and Europe, Earth was revealing that it was not just a planet. It was a machine. Ambassador Choi Woo-jin was in an emergency meeting with the Galactic Union Council. The alien leaders were scared, and when beings who could destroy planets were scared, everyone should be worried. "The energy readings from the human system are off our charts," said the Corvathian representative, his claws scratching nervously at the table. "Our ships cannot get within 10 light-years of Earth without their systems failing. Some of our oldest ships are refusing to obey orders to approach human space," added the Centauri representative. "It is like they remember something and are afraid." All eyes turned to Ambassador Choi. He spread his hands helplessly. "I swear to you, I do not know what is happening. Humans are peaceful. We grow food and heal the sick. We do not have weapons that could affect your ships," but even as he spoke, Choi knew he was lying, not on purpose, but because he was starting to remember things. Dreams he had as a child, stories his grandfather told him about the time before time, when humans were different. When Earth was different, the meeting was interrupted by an emergency signal. Every screen in the room lit up with the same image, a view of space near Earth's solar system. But something was wrong with the picture. There were too many objects around the sun. "What are those?" asked the Corvathian. The Centauri representative was checking her instruments. "They appear to be planets, but there should only be 8 planets in the human system." Ambassador Choi stared at the screen. "Those are not planets," he said quietly. "Those are ships. Very, very big ships." As they watched, one of the objects moved. It was round like a planet, but it flew through space like a ship, and it was heading toward the edge of the solar system, where long-range sensors had detected something approaching from the darkness between galaxies. Dr. Yoon-ji Hai was still in her laboratory when every computer on Earth received the same message at the same time. It was not written in any human language, but somehow everyone could understand it. "Children of Earth," the message said, "the time of sleeping is over. The enemy returns. The Guardian wakes. Prepare for what you truly are." And in the deep places under the Earth, in the cold reaches of space, and in the hearts of every human being, something ancient and powerful opened its eyes and remembered why it had chosen to sleep. The Guardian was waking up, and the galaxy would never be the same again. Captain Lee Tae-ho stared out the window of his ship as it moved through the dark space between stars. The Harmony's Edge was not a warship. It was built for peace talks and carrying messages between different worlds. Earth had been part of the big group of planets called the Galactic Union for 200 years now. Humans were known as the nice ones who grew food and helped sick aliens get better. Lee Tae-ho liked it that way. He had seen what the warrior races could do. The Corvathians could tear apart metal with their bare hands. The Centauri Empire had ships that could destroy whole moons. Humans were weak compared to them, but they were alive and safe. That was what mattered. "Captain, we are getting close to the dig site," said his pilot, pointing to the screen in front of them. The dig site was on a dead planet at the edge of the Andromeda Galaxy. Dr. Park So-young had been working there for 3 months with her team. They were looking at very old ruins that nobody understood. The ruins were older than any of the known space civilizations. Lee Tae-ho walked down the hall to find Dr. Park. She was in the science room, looking at strange symbols on her computer screen. Her eyes were wide with excitement. "Captain, you need to see this," she said without looking up. "These symbols are unlike anything we have found before. They tell a story." Lee Tae-ho looked at the screen. The symbols looked like pictures carved in stone. There was a round shape that looked like a planet. Around it were smaller shapes that might be ships or creatures. "What does it say?" he asked. Dr. Park pointed to different parts of the symbols. "This talks about a sleeping guardian, something that protected a blue world long ago. The symbols say it was the strongest thing in the galaxy, but it went to sleep." A blue world? Lee Tae-ho felt something cold in his stomach. Earth was blue. Yes, and look at this part. Dr. Park moved her finger to another section. "It says the guardian will wake up when the great darkness returns. When that happens, the heavens will freeze in fear." Lee Tae-ho did not like the sound of that. "Have you told the Union about this?" "I tried. The alien historians say it is just old stories. They think no single race could be that powerful." Dr. Park looked frustrated. "But Captain, I have been studying old things for 20 years. This is not a story. This is a record of something real." Meanwhile, on Earth, Commander Kim Do-eun was having a very bad day. She was in charge of Earth's space defenses, which was not a big job, since Earth did not have many weapons compared to other worlds. But today all of her computers were acting strange. "Ma'am, we are getting weird readings from the deep ocean sensors," said her assistant. Kim Do-eun looked at the numbers on her screen. Something was moving deep under the Pacific Ocean, deeper than any human had ever been. The movement was too big to be a whale or any known sea creature. What could be down there? She asked herself. Ambassador Choi Woo-jin was at the big Galactic Union meeting on the planet Nexus Prime. He was listening to the other species talk about trade and peace agreements. It was boring work, but important. Suddenly, every piece of technology in the room started to flicker. The lights went dim for a second, then came back. The computer screens showed strange symbols for just a moment before returning to normal. "What was that?" asked the Corvathian representative, his sharp teeth showing as he spoke. The Centauri ambassador checked her tablet. "Our ships are reporting the same thing happened across the galaxy." Every piece of technology connected to human systems flickered at the exact same time. All eyes turned to Ambassador Choi. He felt sweat on his forehead. I do not know what that was. Humans do not have technology that could reach across the galaxy." But even as he said it, Choi Woo-jin remembered old stories his grandmother used to tell. Stories about the time before humans went to space, when Earth was different, when humans were different. Back on the dead planet, Dr. Park So-young was still studying the symbols when her equipment started beeping loudly. The energy readings from the ruins had just jumped to levels that should not be possible. "Captain Lee," she called out. "The ruins are giving off energy. A lot of energy." Lee Tae-ho ran to the science room. The computer screens were showing numbers that kept growing bigger and bigger. "Is it dangerous?" "I do not think so. But Captain, this energy signature, it matches the readings we are getting from Earth." Lee Tae-ho felt the cold feeling in his stomach get worse. "From Earth? How is that possible?" Dr. Park was typing fast on her computer. "I am comparing the data now. The pattern is exactly the same. Whatever is in these ruins, there is something just like it on Earth." At that moment, every human ship in the galaxy received the same signal. It was not a message that could be heard or read. It was something deeper, something that went right into their minds. For just a moment, every human in space felt like they were being called home. On Earth, people all over the planet stopped what they were doing. They looked up at the sky or down at the ground, feeling something they could not explain. Some people said later that they heard singing, but not with their ears. Others said they felt like they were waking up from a very long dream. Deep under the Pacific Ocean, something that had been sleeping for 50,000 years opened what might have been eyes. The ocean floor started to glow with a soft blue light. Fish swam away as fast as they could. Commander Kim Do-eun watched her computers go crazy with readings she did not understand. "Get me every scientist we have," she told her assistant. "Something is happening, and we need to figure out what it is before the rest of the galaxy notices." But it was too late for that. Every alien ship within 100 light-years of Earth's solar system had detected the energy pulse. Some of them were already turning around and flying away as fast as they could. The older species, the ones with long memories, remembered stories their grandparents told about the blue world and its sleeping guardian. Captain Lee Tae-ho stood in his ship, looking at the data from both the ruins and Earth. Dr. Park So-young was beside him. her face pale with understanding. "Captain," she whispered, "I think we are not who we thought we were." Before Lee Tae-ho could answer, every screen on the ship lit up with the same message, written in every language known to the galaxy. "The Guardian stirs, the protection begins. The hunt awakens." And in the dark space between galaxies, something that had been waiting for a very long time smiled with teeth made of darkness and death. Commander Oh Min-ho had been in charge of Earth's early warning systems for 15 years. He thought he knew every piece of equipment on the planet. But today he was standing in a room that should not exist. The room was under Mount Everest, accessible through a tunnel that had opened by itself 2 days ago. The walls were covered with screens and controls that looked both ancient and futuristic at the same time. Everything was glowing with soft blue light. "Sir," called his technician, Sergeant Lee Boram, "the computers in here are responding to voice commands, but they only respond to humans." Oh Min-ho walked to the largest screen. "Computer, can you hear me?" The screen lit up and a voice answered him. It was not quite male or female, and it sounded like it was coming from everywhere at once. "Welcome home, child of Earth. I have been waiting for you to remember." "Remember what?" Oh Min-ho asked, feeling both scared and excited. "Who you are." "Who we are. I am the voice of the Guardian, and you are my children. For 50,000 years, you have lived as simple humans, growing and learning and becoming wise. But the time of hiding is over." Dr. Shin Yoonji was a language expert who had been called to help understand the messages appearing on human computers everywhere. But when she arrived at the command center, she found that she did not need to translate anything. Somehow she could understand every symbol and sound the Guardian made. "Doctor," said Admiral Bae Hyun-soo, "can you explain how this is possible? These symbols are not in any human language, but everyone can read them." Dr. Shin studied the symbols on the screen. They seemed to move and change as she looked at them. "Admiral, I think these symbols are not really a language. I think they are memories. The Guardian is helping us remember things we forgot." "What kind of things?" Before Dr. Shin could answer, the screens around them lit up with images. They showed Earth as it was thousands of years ago, but it looked very different. There were cities floating in the sky, ships that could travel between stars in minutes, and humans who could do things that seemed impossible. "This is our history," said the Guardian's voice. "You were not always farmers and healers. You were the protectors of the galaxy, the ones who stood between the darkness and the light. But power without wisdom leads to destruction. So you chose to sleep until wisdom grew strong enough to guide power." Captain Lim, Jae-sung, was a fighter pilot who had volunteered to test one of the strange new ships that had appeared around Earth. The ship did not look like any human technology he had ever seen. It was smooth and curved like it had grown instead of being built. When he touched the controls, something amazing happened. He did not have to learn how to fly the ship. Somehow he just knew. The ship responded to his thoughts as much as his hands. "Control tower, this is incredible," he said into his radio. "The ship is reading my mind. When I think about turning left, it turns left. When I think about going faster, it goes faster." "Copy that, Captain Lim," came the reply. "How fast can it go?" Lim thought about speed, and suddenly he was flying faster than any human had ever flown. In seconds, he had traveled from Earth to the moon. But the ship was not even working hard. "Control tower," he said, his voice shaking with excitement. "I think this ship can travel between stars." Back on Earth, Captain Lee Tae-ho had returned from the dig site with news that made everyone nervous. The alien ships studying the ruins had all left in a hurry. Some of them had sent messages saying they were returning to their homeworlds to prepare defenses. "They are scared," he told the emergency meeting of Earth's leaders. "The aliens remember stories about us, stories we forgot. They know what we are becoming." Dr. Park So-young had brought back copies of all the alien historical records she could find. According to their oldest books, humans once had an empire that covered half the galaxy. We had technology that could reshape reality itself, but we gave it all up to fight something called the Vex-Hi Empire. "The Vex-Hi?" asked General Nam Sung-ho. "Beings from another dimension who wanted to destroy all life in the galaxy. The war lasted for thousands of years. Humans won, but the cost was so high that we decided to hide our power and live simple lives." Ambassador Choi Woo-jin raised his hand. "If we were so powerful, why hide? Why not just rule the galaxy?" Dr. Park looked at her notes. "Because ruling leads to corruption, and corruption leads to becoming like the Vex-Hi. Our ancestors chose wisdom over power. They programmed Earth to wake up only if the galaxy faced a threat so big that hiding was no longer possible. "And that threat is coming now?" asked Admiral Bay. The Guardian's voice answered from speakers around the room. "Yes, our sensors detect ships approaching from dark space. The HFY Empire has returned." Meanwhile, in the Galactic Union capital, panic was spreading. Half the member species had recalled their ships to defend their home worlds. The other half were demanding that the Union take action against humanity before Earth became too powerful to stop. The Corvathian representative was shouting at Ambassador Choi on a video call. "Your people are lying to us. No species becomes this powerful overnight without planning it. I swear we did not know," Choi said for the 100th time. "Humans thought we were just farmers and doctors. Then explain how your planet moved." Choi blinked. "What do you mean moved?" The Corvathian sent him a star chart. Earth's solar system was now in a different position than it had been a week ago. The entire system had shifted closer to the galactic center. "That is impossible," whispered Choi. "Yesterday it would have been impossible," said the Corvathian. "Today your people did it. Tomorrow, what will they do to us?" On Earth, people everywhere were experiencing changes they could not explain. Dr. Kim Hae-jin, a small-town doctor, found that she could heal patients just by touching them. Her hands would glow with soft light, and broken bones would mend in minutes. Teacher Park Min-soo discovered that he could understand any language perfectly, even ones he had never heard before. When alien refugees started arriving on Earth fleeing the approach of the HFY, he could speak to all of them. Farmer Yu Sang-min found that plants grew faster and stronger when he was near them. His fields were producing 3 times as much food as normal, which was good because Earth would need to feed a lot of refugees soon. "We are evolving," explained Dr. Yoon Ji-hai to a gathering of scientists. "The Guardian is activating genetic codes that have been sleeping in our DNA for 50,000 years. We are becoming what our ancestors were." "Is it safe?" asked one of the scientists. "I do not know," admitted Dr. Yoon. "But I think we do not have a choice. The enemy is coming and we need to be ready." In space, more changes were happening. The moon had opened up like a flower, revealing weapons that could destroy entire fleets. Mars had sprouted enormous towers that reached up into space. And around the sun, a ring of structures was forming that looked like they could control the star itself. Captain Lee Tae-ho was on the bridge of a new ship, one that had grown from Earth's surface in just 2 days. The ship was alive in ways he did not understand, but it felt right to be here. "Captain," said his new crew member, Lieutenant Ha Yun-young, "we are receiving a message from the edge of the solar system." "Put it on screen." The image that appeared was terrifying. A massive ship, dark and twisted, hung in space like a wound in reality. Its voice was like the sound of dying stars. "Guardians of the Blue World," it said. "We have returned. We remember your betrayal. We remember how you cast us into the void. Now we will finish what we started 50,000 years ago." Captain Lee Tae-ho stood up straighter. Somehow he was not afraid. "This is Captain Lee Tae-ho of the Earth Defense Force. You are not welcome in this galaxy." The alien ship laughed, a sound that made space itself seem to shiver. "Earth Defense Force? You think your little planet can stop the HFY Empire? We have grown strong in the darkness between worlds. We have learned new ways to bring death." "Then you will learn that humans have grown strong too," Lee replied. Around Earth, 1,000 ships that had not existed a week ago powered up their weapons. On the planet's surface, weapons older than civilization pointed toward the stars. And in the hearts of 8 billion humans, power that had slept for 50,000 years began to wake up. The Guardian spoke one last time. "Children of Earth, remember who you are. Remember why you chose to sleep. And remember why you are waking up now. The war was about to begin." Fleet Admiral Ko Dong-hyun stood in the command center of a ship that had not existed a week ago. The vessel was the size of a small city, and it had grown from Earth's surface like a living thing. Every control panel responded to his thoughts, and he could feel the ship's weapons as if they were part of his own body. "Admiral," called Lieutenant Commander Seo Bin-na from the engineering station, "all systems are ready. The planetary defense grid is online." Ko Dong-hyun looked at the main screen, which showed the entire solar system. What he saw there still amazed him even after 3 days. Earth's moon had unfolded like a metal flower, revealing weapon systems that could destroy entire fleets. Mars had grown towers that reached into space, each one crackling with energy. Even the asteroids between Mars and Jupiter had revealed themselves to be disguised weapon platforms. How many ships do we have? He asked. 10,000 combat vessels of various sizes, sir. Plus the planetary defenses, the solar control array, and... Seo Bin Na paused. Sir, I think Earth itself is a weapon. Before Ko Dong-hyun could ask what she meant, alarms began sounding throughout the ship. On the screen, dark shapes appeared at the edge of the solar system. The HFY had arrived. Major Han Kyu-min was leading a squad of enhanced soldiers through the underground tunnels beneath Seoul. 3 days ago, these tunnels had not existed. Now they stretched under every major city on Earth, connecting ancient chambers filled with technology that hurt to look at directly. Major, the nanites are ready for deployment, said Sergeant Lim Young-ho, checking his equipment. All of Han's soldiers had been injected with Guardian nanites that improved their speed, strength, and reflexes. They could now survive in the vacuum of space and see in complete darkness. Good, said Han. If the HFY break through the fleet, we need to be ready to defend the surface. Han did not mention that according to the Guardian's files, if the HFY reached Earth's surface, it would mean the space defenses had failed completely. That was not supposed to be possible, but then again, a week ago, none of this was supposed to be possible. Engineer Seo Bin Na was trying to understand technology that seemed to break every rule of physics she had ever learned. The ship's engines did not burn fuel or use electricity. Instead, they drew power directly from the fabric of space itself. How is this possible? She asked the Guardian's voice, which could speak to her through any computer on the ship. Your ancestors learned to work with reality instead of against it, the Guardian explained. They understood that space and time are not barriers but tools. This ship can travel to any point in the galaxy instantly, or it can make the galaxy come to it. Make the galaxy come to it? Watch and learn, said the Guardian. On the main screen, Admiral Ko Dong-hyun watched the first battle begin. A small group of human ships, each one smaller than a single HFY vessel, flew toward the enemy fleet. The HFY ships fired weapons that could turn entire planets to dust, but something impossible happened. The human ships did not dodge the attacks. Instead, they absorbed them. The deadly energy that should have destroyed them made them glow brighter. What are they doing? Ko Dong-hyun asked. Learning, replied the Guardian. Every attack the enemy makes teaches our ships how to defend against it. Every weapon they use becomes a weapon we can use. The small human ships reached the HFY fleet and began to do something that made Ko Dong-hyun's eyes hurt to watch. They were changing the space around the enemy ships, making it solid like metal. HFY vessels that could fly faster than light suddenly found themselves trapped in thick, invisible walls, but the HFY were not helpless. Their ships began to change shape, growing new weapons and armor. Some of them split apart into smaller vessels, others combined into larger ones. They had learned new tricks during their time in the void between galaxies. Sir, called Commander Park from the tactical station, the enemy is adapting faster than expected. They are breaking free from our spatial traps. Ko Dong-hyun nodded. Then we adapt faster. All ships prepare for Phase 2. What happened next was something that would be remembered across the galaxy for thousands of years. The human fleet, outnumbered 1,000 to 1, began to fight the HFY using weapons that rewrote the laws of physics. Human ships fired beams of crystallized time that aged enemy vessels into dust in seconds. Others shot bullets made of compressed space that hit targets in other star systems. Still others used gravity itself as a weapon, creating black holes the size of marbles that could swallow entire fleets. Dr. Jang Hye-won was on a research station studying captured HFY technology when she made a terrifying discovery. The enemy ships were not just machines. They were partially alive, infected with something that existed in the space between dimensions. Admiral Ko, she called urgently over the communication system. The HFY ships are carrying something. Some kind of virus that exists in dark matter. If it spreads to our ships, it could infect our technology. What kind of infection? Ko Dong-hyun asked while watching his ships battle the enemy. The kind that makes machines hate organic life, Dr. Jang replied. The HFY are not just conquerors. They are a disease that turned civilizations against themselves. Colonel Yu Sang-wook was leading the first boarding mission onto a disabled HFY ship. His team wore armor that was more like a second skin, and they carried weapons that fired bullets of pure energy. The inside of the HFY ship was like a nightmare. The walls moved and breathed. The air was full of whispers in languages that had never existed, and everywhere machines and flesh had been combined in ways that hurt to look at. Colonel, whispered Private Kim Do-hyun. I can hear them thinking. The machines, they are in pain. Yu Sang-wook activated his armor's protective systems. Stay focused. We need to reach the control center and learn how they found their way back to our galaxy. As they moved deeper into the ship, they found chambers full of creatures that might once have been different alien species. Now they were all part of the HFY collective, their minds twisted by the infection from dark space. In the control center, they found what they were looking for, star charts showing the route the HFY had taken to return to the galaxy. But what they saw made Yu Sang-wook's blood turn cold. Command, this is Colonel Yu, he reported. The HFY fleet we are fighting is just the advance guard. The main force is still coming, and they have ships the size of moons. Back in the main battle, things were getting worse. The human ships were winning individual fights, but more HFY vessels kept appearing from dark space. Each wave was larger and more dangerous than the last. Sir, reported Commander Park, our ships are learning and adapting, but so are theirs. Each time we develop a new weapon, they develop a counter for it. Admiral Ko Dong-hyun watched the tactical display with growing concern. The battle was turning into a stalemate, and stalemates favored the side with more ships. Guardian, he called out, is there something more we can do? Yes, the Guardian replied, but you will not like it. Earth must move. Move? Move where? Into the battle itself. This planet is not just your home, it is your greatest weapon, but using it means risking everything. Ko Dong-hyun looked at the screen showing 8 billion people on Earth's surface. Could he ask them to turn their entire world into a weapon? Before he could decide, something new appeared on the long-range sensors. A single HFY ship, but one so large it had its own gravity field. It was the size of a small planet, and it was moving toward Earth at impossible speed. That is the Emperor's ship, said the Guardian, and for the first time, its voice sounded worried. It carries a weapon that can kill stars. On the surface of Earth, people everywhere felt something change. The ground beneath their feet hummed with power. The oceans began to glow. The sky itself seemed to thicken, as if the planet was preparing for something beyond imagination. Dr. Yoon Ji-hee was monitoring the planetary changes when her instruments showed something that should have been impossible. The entire planet is generating a field that extends into hyperspace, she reported to anyone who would listen. Earth is not just moving through normal space anymore. It is moving through dimensions I cannot even name. Admiral Ko Dong-hyun made his decision. All civilian populations prepare for planetary mobilization. We are taking the fight to them. And with that command, Earth itself began to move toward the HFY Emperor's ship, not flying through space like a normal planet, but stepping through dimensions like a living being. The final battle was about to begin, and this time, the weapon would be a world. Admiral Park Soo-jin found herself in command of something that had never existed before, a planet that could fly through space and fight like a warship. Earth had revealed its true nature, and she was its captain. Standing in the new command center that had grown from Mount Fuji, she watched through screens that showed her everything happening around Earth. The planet was moving through space in ways that broke every law of physics she had ever learned. Admiral called her tactical officer, Commander Young Min Woo. We are approaching the HFY Emperor's ship. It is massive, does not begin to describe it. Park Soo-jin looked at the main screen and felt her heart skip a beat. The Emperor's ship was indeed the size of a small planet, but unlike Earth, it looked like a nightmare made real. Its surface was covered with weapons that crackled with dark energy, and space itself seemed to bend around it in unnatural ways. What is our status? She asked. All planetary defense systems are online, reported Engineering Officer Lee Hyo-sung. The continental railguns are charged, the oceanic energy projectors are ready, and the atmospheric shield is at maximum strength. Dr. Jang Hee-won was in her laboratory, working frantically to understand the star-killer weapon the HFY Emperor carried. What she had learned was terrifying. The weapon did not just destroy stars by blowing them up. It made them forget how to exist. Admiral Park, she called over the communication system, I have analyzed the Emperor's weapon. It fires something called unenergy that unravels the forces holding atoms together. If it hits our sun, the entire solar system will simply stop being. How do we stop it? Park Soo-jin asked. I do not know. This technology works on principles that should not be possible. It is like they learned to weaponize nothingness itself. Colonel Yu Sang-wook was leading his enhanced soldiers in a desperate mission. They had to board the Emperor's ship and destroy the Starkiller before it could fire. But getting there meant flying through a battle that was reshaping space itself. "Colonel," said his pilot, Captain Kang Soo-young, "I am reading massive distortions ahead. The space between us and the target is changing constantly." Through the windows of their transport, Yu Sang-wook could see human and Vexai ships fighting with weapons that turned reality into a battlefield. Some ships were firing beams that aged their targets into dust. Others shot projectiles that existed in multiple dimensions at once. The battle was so intense that it was creating new laws of physics moment by moment. "Just get us there," he told the pilot. "My team will handle the rest." Meanwhile, on Earth's surface, 8 billion people were experiencing something that had never happened in human history. Every person on the planet could feel the battle happening around them. They could sense the enemy ships approaching, and their own world's weapons preparing to fire. Farmer Kim Tai-hwan was in his fields when he suddenly understood what was happening. "The planet is alive," he said to his wife. "Earth is not just our home. It is our protector, and it needs our help." All across the world, humans began to do something instinctive. They placed their hands on the ground and shared their energy with the planet. 8 billion people, all connected through the Guardians network, all lending their strength to Earth's defense systems. In the command center, Admiral Park Soo-jin watched as Earth's power levels doubled, then tripled. "What is happening?" she asked. "The population is linking with the planetary systems," explained Dr. Yoon Ji-hai over the communication link. "Every human on Earth is now part of the weapon. We are not just riding on a planet anymore. We are the planet." The first exchange of fire between Earth and the Emperor's ship lit up half the galaxy. The Vexai fired their Starkiller weapon, a beam of pure nothingness that should have unmade everything it touched. But Earth responded with something that had never been used before, a shield made of crystallized time. The Un-energy beam hit the time shield and simply stopped existing. Not destroyed, not deflected, but stopped in a moment that lasted forever. "Impossible," whispered the Vexai Emperor from his ship. "No one has ever blocked the Unmaker beam." Earth's response was to fire its continental railguns. But these were not normal weapons. They fired bullets made of compressed matter from the planet's core, accelerated to speeds that let them hit targets in the past. The Vexai Emperor's ship was struck by weapons that had been fired before the battle even began. But the Emperor was not finished. His ship began to change, growing new weapons and defenses. Parts of it split off and became separate ships, while other parts combined into larger ones. The Vexai had learned to rebuild themselves during battle. Colonel Yu Sang-wook and his team had finally reached the Emperor's ship. But when they tried to board it, they found that the ship's hull was not made of normal matter. It was made of the space between atoms, solid darkness that their weapons could barely touch. "Colonel," called Sergeant Park Jin-ho, "our equipment is being affected by the ship's field. My rifle is firing backwards through time and my armor thinks it is in 3 places at once." "Adapt," Yu ordered. "Remember, we are enhanced now. We can survive things that would kill normal humans." They found an opening in the ship's hull and entered a corridor that seemed to stretch in directions that had no names. The inside of the Vexai ship was not built according to normal geometry. Hallways led upward and downward at the same time. Doors opened into rooms that were larger on the inside than the outside. But Yu Sang-wook's team had been enhanced by Guardian technology. Their minds could now process information in ways that normal humans could not. They navigated the impossible ship by thinking in 4 dimensions instead of 3. "The Starkiller control room should be at the center of the ship," said Private Lee Sun-young, reading from instruments that had adapted to work in the strange environment. As they moved deeper into the ship, they began to encounter the crew. But these were not the Vexai soldiers they expected. These were beings that had been turned into living weapons, their bodies twisted into shapes that served the ship's needs. "They used to be like us," whispered Sergeant Kim Do-hyun. "Different species, but people. The Vexai infection changed them into tools. The battle outside was reaching its climax. Earth and the Emperor's ship were now fighting at point-blank range, their weapons reshaping space around them. Both sides were using powers that should not exist, drawn from the deepest secrets of reality itself." Admiral Park Soo-jin watched as Earth's oceans rose up into space, becoming weapons that could drown enemy ships in water that existed in 11 dimensions. The planet's forests reached out like giant hands, grasping HFY vessels and converting them into more trees. "Admiral," called Commander Jung, "the Emperor is charging another star-killer shot. This one is bigger than the first. Then we use everything," Park Soo-jin decided. "Guardian, I need the final protocol." "Are you certain?" asked the Guardian. "The final protocol cannot be undone. Earth will be changed forever. Do it." What happened next was witnessed by every species in the galaxy. Earth stopped being just a planet and became something new. The continents reshaped themselves into a massive weapon platform. The atmosphere became a focusing lens for energy drawn from the sun itself. And the 8 billion humans on the surface became the neurons in a planetary brain. But the most shocking thing was what happened to the humans themselves. In that moment, every person on Earth evolved. They did not change physically, but they gained abilities that made them more than human. They could think in multiple dimensions, survive in any environment, and understand technologies that had not been invented yet. Colonel Yu Sang-wook felt the change happen as his team reached the Starkiller control room. Suddenly, he could see the weapon's weakness. It was not just a machine. It was alive, infected with the same virus that had corrupted the HFY. And viruses could be cured. "Team, new plan," he called to his soldiers. "We are not here to destroy this weapon. We are here to heal it." Using abilities he had just gained, Yu reached out to the Starkiller weapon with his mind. He found the part of it that was still clean, still fighting against the infection. And with the power of 8 billion humans flowing through him, he began to cure the disease that had turned a tool of creation into a weapon of destruction. The Starkiller weapon powered down, its unenergy dissipating harmlessly into space. But more than that, the cure began to spread through the Emperor's ship, freeing the infected crew members and turning the vessel's weapons into tools of healing. "No," screamed the HFY Emperor, but his voice was different now. For the first time in 50,000 years, he sounded like the being he used to be before the infection took hold. The battle was over, but the real work was just beginning. Earth had awakened not just as a weapon, but as a healer. And across the galaxy, every species would have to decide what kind of universe they wanted to live in. The Guardian had awakened, and the heavens would never be the same.